gremlins! I have moved, and this is my new backdrop. Hopefully this backdrop will actually stick around for a while. I will probably be adding more, like, art and stuff to the background, but other than that, it should actually stay the same for a while. I recently got asked why I wear a mask in all my videos. The answer is just that I don't really want to show my face online, but I was then given the idea to decorate the mask, and I took that idea and ran with it. So here are the 6 ideas I sketched last night. Some involve embroidery, some involve painting, some involve, like, chains and safety pins and beads and things. Probably have a lot of free time over the next couple of weeks before school starts, so I'm gonna make these. Plus, you know, at the moment I'll be on public transport a lot more and out in public a lot more because of school and things, so it always seems like a good idea to have some extra masks around, and these ones will actually fit my personal style, unlike blue surgical masks. So these will be helpful both for the channel and also for just my personal safety out and about. So, let's get started. I have never sewn a face mask before, and I did not bother to look up any actual instructions for this project. All I looked up were images of face mask patterns, which I then roughly copied onto a sheet of paper to make myself a template. I decided to make one mask all the way to completion before starting on the others, just to test out my template and the method I came up with, and it's a good thing I did. For my first attempt, I traced the template out 4 times on some black fabric that was a sheet once, which I bought months ago from a thrift shop for a different project. I then cut out my 4 pieces. My plan is to make all the masks double layered, so that all the seams are hidden on the inside and any decorations won't be touching my face, since I do have texture issues. My original method had me making each layer of the mask on its own, then sewing the 2 layers together. I pinned the 2 halves of the mask together down the front seam and sewed that, doing the same to the other 2 pieces. I then pinned those 2 mask layers together around the edges, leaving the sides unsewn to be able to turn this right side out after it's done. I had to unpin and repin it a couple times to make it line up properly, which probably should have been my first sign that this wasn't working. Despite that, I continued on, sewing the top and bottom of the mask together. I then started turning it inside out, and this is where I realized that this had gone wrong. The internal seams were not laying flat, the 2 layers of the mask were shifting around apart from each other, and the whole thing didn't fit very well. So, I started over. Welcome to attempt 2. I'm now cutting out more black fabric, still using the same template, but adding an extra centimeter to the bottom of the mask. This did not end up being a needed centimeter, but oh well. I'm using a different method now to attach the 4 pieces to each other. Last time I sewed the 2 halves of each layer together, then attached the 2 layers together. This time I'm sewing the 2 layers of one half of the mask to each other, then sewing the 2 halves together. My center seams will actually be attached all the way through the mask and won't move around, and the mask should fit better as well. This is the method that ended up working, a method which I perfected throughout the sewing of the next 5 masks. However, the process was still filled with problems, which past me complained about directly to the camera. Sorry about the audio quality of my brief rant. Brief update. I don't have a mic on, so this is probably going to be bad audio quality, but I don't want to have to wait till my voiceover to say this. This sewing process has been just problem after problem. I'm on my 2nd attempt at making the mask, because the first one, the pattern that I was making up in my head, didn't work. And now this one so far, I've had a false start where I had to immediately unpick what I did because I wasn't following the line I was supposed to. The next thing I remember happening is my bobbin ran out. So then I rewound the bobbin, took it off the winder, realized that some of it hadn't gotten wound around the winder, it got wound like the thingy that the winder sticks on, and I wasn't sure where in the process, but I was like, okay, if that comes up when I'm sewing, that's going to cause an issue, so I unwound the bobbin. Turns out it was the very first, few loops didn't go around the bobbin properly, which meant I unwound the entire bobbin, and now I'm winding the bobbin back up, and I was about to do this by hand, but honestly I'm just going to use the bobbin winder for this and just hold the fabric, the thread that I just unwound all over my bedroom floor. So yeah, this has not been going as smoothly as I thought. I was like, oh, masks will be easy. It's barely any fabric, barely any pins. This is going to be so quick and easy. So after that series of small but annoying issues, I went back to sewing, finished the sewing of the second half of the mask, and turned it inside out. I then sewed the 2 halves together along the front seam by hand, all while having no idea that I was nearly out of frame, and most of what you can see on camera is my desk, which has been slowly getting messier since I started this process. In fact, as you watch this whole video, keep an eye on how my workspace devolves into chaos. I sewed up the front part of the seam with neat, small stitches, then sewed up the back of the seam with a lot messier ones, just to make sure both layers of each mask were fully secure, with no gaps visible. Sorry it's so hard to see what I'm doing, I'm using black thread on black fabric. I didn't have any elastic of the right width, nor did I have the means to get to a craft store, so instead I cut some wide black elastic meant for waistbands into 4 strips and used that. It isn't perfect, in fact I'll probably need to replace the elastic at some point, but it works for now and is surprisingly comfortable. I pinned the loops in place on either side of the mask, folding in all the raw edges at the same time, then tried the mask on and adjusted the length of the loops a few times until it was a comfortable fit. First try on, still don't have a microphone, so hopefully the audio quality is not too bad. I think I've figured it out. So I just need to sew the elastic in place now. I've already adjusted it a couple times. And then it's time for the decorating. Or it's time to start the next mask and wait for the decorating to do the decorating later. I haven't actually fully decided yet. Also for the next mask, I don't think I need actually as much as I gave myself. I gave myself like an extra centimeter after the previous attempt. I don't think I actually need the actual extra centimeter. I think I just need to readjust my pattern a bit so that this side doesn't get too narrow. Anyway, time to do the final bit of sewing on this. Woo! I finished my first mask by sewing 2 lines of stitches along each end to secure all the raw edges and elastic in place. Finally, it's time to move on to the next set of masks. Now that I have a workable pattern, albeit one that I do make a few more adjustments to after mask number 1, I'm cutting out all the rest of my fabric in one go. Actually, there is some fabric I cut out later since I acquired it later in the process, but for simplicity's sake, let's say I get all the fabric cutting done now. I have some dark green fabric, which I got secondhand from a plastic bin of fabric rolls. I love when thrift stores have rolls of fabric for a couple of dollars. I have some grey fabric that was a pillowcase once, which my mum gave to me after using the rest of the pillowcase as backing fabric. I have some olivey, foresty, naturey green fabric, which I'm saving for a future project but can afford to take a little piece of for this. And finally I have some more of that same black fabric, which I traced my pattern onto but haven't cut out yet, since this fabric is going onto my embroidery hoop. I feel a bit weird vlogging, I'm not used to this, but anyway, it's evening now, so I don't know how great the light's going to be as it gets darker slowly, but my plan for this evening is embroidering the mask that's going to have embroidery on it. That would be this mask here. It's not very visible on the sketch because I filled in the background with black and that kind of removed all the detail that I drew in, but it's basically just going to be embroidered with like plants and ferns and stuff. I've got a whole bunch of miscellaneous embroidery threads, and I've got my embroidery hoop, and I do not have my needles, I just realized I need to go grab them. But I'm just gonna probably sit in, watch a TV series or a movie tonight, and embroider as much as I can, because this is the part of the process that's gonna take the longest, because embroidery is a lot more time consuming than any other decoration I'm doing. So I wanna get a head start on this. Yeah, I will update as I go. Update. It is now a bit like 9:15 p.m. I started this I think around 7, so I've been working on this a bit over 2 hours. And how do I get this to be good and visible? I finished half of it. So this is one mask panel. I'm pretty happy with it. I've got a couple different variations of plants and stuff. Also the grass blades are me trying out something new I haven't tried before. The rest of the plants I've done similar stuff before. I think it worked out pretty good. I've watched like 7 episodes of Vox Machina for the first time, really enjoying it, and I'll see if I can finish the rest of this tonight, but I need to take a break to get some other stuff done, in case I don't end up finishing this tonight, in which case I'll finish it in the morning. Quiet update now, as it is past 11. It's about 11:20 p.m. and I'm done for the night. I'm not done. This is my progress so far. I've finished 2 more sprigs and I'm working on a fern, and my eyes are very tired. I'm already in my pajamas and I want to go to bed, so I'll probably finish this tomorrow or after the weekend. I don't know. Either way, this is my check-in for the night. See you all in the morning. Hi, it's a few days later. I have a mannequin now. And I finished the embroidery. It didn't take me a few days to finish the embroidery, I was just not at home for a couple of days and didn't bring my embroidery with me. But, this is actually really hard to hold with one hand. This is the embroidery for one side. This is what I just finished. And, I need a tripod. This is the embroidery for the other side. If I can get it to be flat. You've seen the pictures, you know what it looks like. Anyway, my next step is to pin this fabric to the inner lining of fabric, so my face doesn't have to be touching, like, the back of the embroidery. And then cut it out. And then it's on to the next set of masks, I guess, or my plan at the moment is I've got one mask that is going to have a painted design on it, so I'm going to do that first before it gets sewn together, so only the outside has the paint on it. Then I'm going to start sewing all these masks together, and then get to the decorating of all the other masks. I've laid the embroidered black fabric face down on some more of that same black sheet, and now I'm pinning around the edges of the design so the fabric stays flat and together while I cut out the mask halves. I'm going to paint this mask with mushroom designs. I'm just starting with a quick sketch using watercolor pencil, so my pencil lines can be washed out eventually, and I'm sketching 3 fly agaric mushrooms, or toadstools, on one half of the mask, and 2 simple brown mushrooms on the other half. Next, I spent forever mixing paint for the stems of the fly agaric. It took so much white paint for me to get this light enough. I also had to do a lot of layers of both mushroom stems. The green fabric kept showing up through the pale paint. The caps of the mushrooms were easier, since they're darker in color. I added some of my stem-colored paint to some dark brown for the caps of the small brown mushrooms, and used straight red paint for the toadstools. I then tried adding white spots to the toadstools while the paint was still too wet, since I wanted to finish the painting before catching a bus to the shops. This did not work, so instead I left the paint to dry while I went shopping, then finished the white spots a few hours later, alongside a third coat of paint on the mushroom stems. Before I start sewing all my mask pieces together, I need to cut out one more mask. This mask has one panel of patterned green fabric, which I found ages ago at a thrift store, and I'm saving most of for a future project. This fabric was still at my parents' house, which is why I couldn't cut it out earlier. The rest of this mask is just made with some more of the same dark green I've used before. With that cut out and pinned, it's time to start sewing all these masks together. I started with my embroidered mask. I was a bit worried about sewing this one, worried that my sewing machine needle would catch on the embroidery thread, but it worked out fine. For all of these masks, I've started sewing at the top end where the ear loops will go, sewing all the way around the outline of the mask shape, and ending at the bottom of the loop end, leaving that edge unsewn so I can turn the mask right side out. Those raw ends will get sewn shut when I add the elastic. I'm not lingering on this process much, it's very repetitive and not super interesting to watch. However, halfway through sewing all the masks, I did switch camera angles to add a layer of lace to one half of the dark green mask before sewing it together. I was originally going to do lace on both sides, but decided the asymmetric look looks nicer. Plus, I can save the rest of my lace for a different project. The lace is secured to the mask with a zigzag stitch, which was then hidden after the mask layers were sewn together and turned right side out. Okay, so I'm a bit more than halfway done with the project, but I'll count this as a bit of like a mid-project check-in. So what I've got so far is I've got one mask sewn up but undecorated. Also, my elastic method is really not working, but I'll probably end up replacing the elastic in all of these once I buy myself some elastic that's the correct width. But this will work for now. So I've got one mask that is entirely sewn but completely undecorated. I have a bunch of half masks. That need to be sewn together and have their straps added. And then I've also got these, which I haven't sewn together yet because I had to wait for the paint to be drying for 12 hours in order to iron them. So that's my first step for today. I'm going to iron these and then... Where's the back of the other one? And then sew them to their other halves so that I've got all half masks. And then I'm going to start sewing these together down like the front seams so that I've got whole masks that then get decorated. So yeah, just figured I'd interrupt my work progress a little bit and update you guys on how this all is going. I think it's going really well. I sewed these 2 mask halves to their lining layers really quickly, then interrupted my voiceover to talk for a minute. I don't have my mic on, because I wasn't intending on talking. But damn, my bobbin really chose the perfect time to run out, because I did not lose any progress on this, and it's empty now. Like, it timed this perfectly. Yeah, anyway, now I need to refill my bobbin. Continuing on, I refilled my bobbin and sewed the other half of the mask. I'm just using black thread for this since I don't have any shades of green thread that properly match the green of the fabric. They're all either too cool toned or too muted. And now I've moved to the couch, headphones on to watch an anime that one of my friends has been pushing me to watch for months, and sewing all the mask halves together by hand. I started with this grey mask, sewing the side that will be visible to others with very neat stitches, then sewing back down the other side with a rough whip stitch to avoid the seams of the two halves of the mask being visible. Between sewing the grey mask and returning to sew the rest, I had to take a break to lie on the floor in pain for about half an hour, since I forgot to listen to my body and tried to push through when I should have taken a break a while before. I just never seem to learn. But I'm fine now, and back at it sewing the rest of the mask with a slightly different camera angle. Wow, look at me go, I'm so fast. In reality, ignoring the break for floor time, this took around 2 hours to sew all these seams. I finished with the embroidered mask. Update. I'm almost done. 3 of the masks are now completely done. I went and attached the elastics off camera just because I didn't want to deal with the camera as well as trying to sew this. This isn't like a particularly interesting process to watch, but these 3 masks are completely done, and I'll show them off more in the reveal. Where did I put them? So I sat on the other ones. And the other 3 masks, I just need to add some final decorations to. I'm adding some like chains and charms and stuff to these ones. And this one I'm adding splatter of paint, so I'll do this one off camera as well, because I'll have to go outside to do that. But I can get the chains and charms going on these ones. I think I'm going to finish this today. Earlier in the day I was thinking I might need another day, but I think I'm going to be able to get it done before it gets dark. Woo! I'm really excited about how this is turning out. They're looking so good, I'm so excited. Both of these masks are meant to go with my more alternative and vampire-y outfits in different ways. I'm starting with the black mask, which is a combination of vampire-y and punk. First, I'm attaching a small metal ring to the top of the front seam with some black thread, and using that to attach a red teardrop shape or blood drop shaped bead. I'm also attaching 2 lengths of chain to that ring, so they fall in arches across my cheeks. The chain should be very easy to remove when I wash the mask. They're clipped to the mask straps with more metal rings. Finally, I'm adding a few safety pins to the mask in an X shape on one cheek and parallel on the other. The second mask is much simpler, because it already has the detail of lace. For this mask, I'm adding a simple chain that will go across the top of my nose, attached at either ear loop. It was meant to just stay in place over my nose, but I made the chain a bit too long for that, so I ended up adding another metal ring off camera for the chain to feed through. Now, onto the final mask I need to decorate, which has a very different vibe. Audio probably won't be good because I didn't bother grabbing my mic, but I have gone outside and splattered the mask with very, very watered down red acrylic paint. Red paint mixed with a bit of brown and blue to make it more blood coloured. And I think it looks really cool. I also don't know if I'd wear this out on public transport or something, because I don't want people to be scared of me. Go check out my Instagram, linked in the description, to see photos and more videos of the masks. It's done! The project's finished! I now have 6 cool masks that all match different aspects of my personal style. I think this one's my favorite, the one I'm wearing at the moment. This is definitely my favorite to work on. I love embroidery. It's so relaxing to me. But I also do really like this one with the lace pattern. I think it's very cool. And obviously, mushrooms always have a big place in my heart. I love all of these, but these are just some of my favorites. I'd love to hear which ones are your favorites in the comments. Also, I'd love to hear what you thought of this style of video. I really enjoyed it, being able to cut away from my process to talk to the camera in the middle of the process, rather than just having an intro, voiceover, and an outro. It was really nice. It felt a bit more connected throughout the whole process. It was nice being able to just check in and give my random thoughts as I worked. Also, I was using a new editing program. I'm using a new editing program for this video. I've already started the editing as I film this outro. So let me know if you even noticed a difference, and if you did notice a difference, if you prefer it. The old editing program I had, I was outgrowing it. So anyway, I really enjoyed this project. I hope you did as well. I would love to hear all your thoughts. And I'll see you in 2 weeks. Bye!